MotoGP in 2026 is not a championship. It's a demolition derby with trophies. And if you think that's an exaggeration, wait until you hear what happened to Fabio Di Giannantonio at the Catalan Grand Prix. A wheel, an actual flying wheel from a rival's wrecked bike. It hit him, mid-race, and somehow an hour later he's standing on the top step of the podium like nothing happened. How does a man get struck by debris flying off another rider's machine and still win the race? Stick around, because that answer says everything about how unpredictable this season has become. Nobody in the paddock wants to say this out loud. This isn't just a rough patch. This is the most chaotic stretch of racing MotoGP has seen in years. And it's only July. Riders are crashing at rates that should terrify their own teams. Championship leaders are losing everything in a single corner. And the injury list reads like a war report. Barcelona, Assen, Brno. Every single round has produced a moment that made fans put down their phones and just stare at the screen in disbelief. So let's go through it, because you need to understand exactly how bad this got. Start with May 17th, the Catalan Grand Prix, the day the wheels came off. Alex Marquez collided at brutal speed with Pedro Acosta's KTM after it suddenly malfunctioned beneath him, and the result was horrifying. A fractured C7 vertebra, a broken collarbone. Think about that for a second. The C7 sits right at the base of the neck. One wrong angle, one different impact, and you're talking about a completely different kind of headline. Marquez survived it. But this is a rider who got up that morning expecting a normal race weekend, and instead left the circuit with his neck broken. That's not racing. That's a near miss with catastrophe, and everybody in that paddock knew it. The race got red flagged, twice in one Grand Prix weekend, which tells you everything about how uncontrolled this event actually was. And when they restarted, it got worse, not better. Minutes into the first restart, Johan Zarco triggered a horror pileup at turn 1, collecting Francesco Bagnaia and Luca Marini in the chaos. Zarco walked away, if you can call it walking, with torn knee ligaments and a fractured fibula in his ankle. 7 races. That's how long he was sidelined because of it. And here's the gut punch. Zarco later admitted to L'Equipe that he shouldn't have even been on the grid for that restart. He wasn't right. Mentally, physically, he wasn't ready, and he lined up anyway. That's the part that should worry you. Riders are getting back on bikes with concussions, with adrenaline masking pain that should have kept them in the medical center, and it's treated like bravery instead of what it actually is, a risk nobody should be taking. So if watching riders line up broken and concussed bothers you as much as it bothers me, subscribe now, because this season is only getting messier from here. Jorge Martin's weekend at Barcelona deserves its own paragraph, because 6 is not a typo, 5 is not a typo. 5 crashes, over one race weekend, with a 6th during the Monday test. He went down in Friday practice with a reported concussion and somehow found 4 more ways to hit the ground before the weekend was over. 4 more. After a head injury. He went down in Friday practice with a reported concussion and somehow found 5 more ways to hit the ground before it was over. 5 more. After a head injury. Nobody should need to explain why that's terrifying, but apparently somebody did, because he kept getting back on the bike. He ended up hospitalized on Monday following a final crash during the post-race test, and when he ultimately registered a DNF after getting taken out on the opening lap of the 3rd restart, the adrenaline turned into something uglier. He shoved a member of his own Aprilia team in front of everyone. Not a rival team, his own crew. That's what this sport is doing to its riders right now. It's turning frustration into physical outbursts, and Barcelona was the proof. Marc Marquez, the defending world champion, wasn't even safe in the sprint race at the French Grand Prix. High-speed crash, fractured foot, and just like that, the reigning champion is watching from the sidelines. He missed France. He missed Catalonia. 2 rounds gone for the man wearing the number 93 on his bike, and nobody batted an eye because by that point, injuries had become the storyline of the entire season, not the exception to it. Then Brno happened, and this one isn't about a broken bone. It's about a broken temper. Marco Bezzecchi, sitting on top of the championship standings, crashed out of the Czech Grand Prix sprint race, and instead of walking it off, he physically confronted a track marshal, assaulted him, on camera, in front of everyone. The result was immediate. Banned from Sunday's Grand Prix. A championship leader, disqualified from competing, not because of his riding, but because he couldn't control himself after a crash. Genius on the bike. A disaster off it. And the number that followed him around after that weekend says it all. 0. 0 points on Sundays across 3 straight rounds. Czechia, Hungary, and the Netherlands. Because between the ban and the crashes, there was nothing left to score on main race days. And that brings you to Assen, the round that flipped this entire championship upside down. June 26th, practice day, Alex Marquez goes down in a severe high-speed crash, so violent it triggers a red flag late in the session. That was the warning. 2 days later, on race day, Bezzecchi is running fourth, still clinging to his points lead, still trying to claw his season back together. Then turn 15, 200 kilometers per hour, gone. Gravel, dust, and a championship lead disappearing in less than 2 seconds. He was taken to hospital as a precaution and released with no serious injuries, so at least there's that. But the damage to his title chase? That one doesn't heal in a weekend. Almost nobody talks about this from that same race. While Bezzecchi was sliding through the gravel on lap 2, fellow Aprilia rider Ogura was riding into history. 22 years. That's how long Japan had gone without a premier-class win in MotoGP. 22 years of waiting, and Ogura ended it at Assen, partly because the championship leader had just thrown his race away in the exact same lap. One rider's disaster became another rider's legacy moment, and that's this season in one sentence. And the fallout is still landing. On July 9th, just days ago, stewards handed Johann Zarco a double long lap penalty to be served whenever he returns from injury in September. Punishment for a crash that happened back in May, delivered months later, to a rider who hasn't even recovered enough to race. That's how far behind this championship is running its own consequences. So what does all of this actually mean? It means the 2026 MotoGP season isn't being decided by who's fastest. It's being decided by who's still standing. Bezzecchi had the points, had the momentum, had the storyline of the year, and lost all of it in a gravel trap at 200 kilometers per hour. And Zarco is out until September recovering from his injuries, and will have to serve his double long lap penalty whenever he finally returns. Alex Marquez is riding again, with a healed neck that shouldn't have healed this fast. And somewhere in all of that, Fabio Di Giannantonio got hit by a flying wheel and still climbed onto a podium. Explain that. Nobody can. If any of this left you as stunned as it left the paddock, like this video and subscribe, because this championship isn't finished breaking records yet.